discussing the three theories of selective attention. Now, these three theories are usually discussed for auditory attention, but the same applies to other senses as well. The first theory will be Broadbent's early selection theory. Now, this theory has four stages, just like the other two theories of this video. And in stage one, all the environment from the information that we sense goes into the sensory register. And the job of the sensory register is to briefly register or store all the sensory input that we get. So, for example, a smell of some food, sirens that go by, words that we hear, all of this goes into the sensory register. Now, in stage two, this input that we get is transferred to the selective filter directly. And the selective filter is identifying what it's supposed to be attending to via basic physical characteristics. So for example, when it comes to hearing, the selective filter will identify the pitch, the accent, the speed, the voice of the person, basic things like this that we don't really need to understand in order to actually identify. And everything else that we don't need gets filtered out. And in stage three of this theory, the selected information moves along so that perceptual processes can occur. And these assign meaning to the information. So for example, when our friend comes by and asks us a question, we're going to try assigning meaning to his or her words. So this is a perceptual process that may occur. And in the fourth and final stage, other cognitive processes may occur, such as formulating an answer to said question. Now, the flaw with this theory came by because of the cocktail party effect and other phenomena that researchers discovered. The cocktail party effect is a phenomenon where even if we're participating actively in a conversation with either one person or even in a group of people, our attention involuntarily, without us even controlling, will switch over to someone else calling our name, even if we don't know where the call is coming from. So, wouldn't this prove that we're not consciously selecting or choosing every single thing that we want to hear or see or sense? So, we already switch our attention and we didn't even choose to pay attention to our name. So, a second theory was emerged, and this theory is Deutsch and Deutsch's late selection theory. Now, this has four stages as well, and stage one and stage four are the exact same. However, there's one major difference. Stage two and stage three are totally switched around. So, stage one would be the sensory register, stage two would be perceptual processes, stage three would be the selective filter, and stage four would be the other cognitive processes. This theory proposes that we do register and assign everything meaning, every single thing, but then the selective filter decides what to pass on to our conscious awareness. But the thing is with this theory is that everything needs to happen extremely quickly. And especially since oftentimes our attention is really limited. And even though that we know our brains are super efficient, it's a bit of a waste effort and time to spend so much energy computing and understanding everything that we're not really even going to need. So a third theory was proposed. And this theory is Treisman's attenuation theory. Now, in this theory, like the previous two theories, the first stage and the fourth stage are the same. However, in stage two, instead of a filter, Treisman proposed that we have an attenuator that weakens but doesn't fully eliminate the input from the unattended ear or the unattended eye, whichever other sense. So attenuation, just as a note, it means the reduction in force, value, amount, or degree. So it basically weakens, but it doesn't fully go down to zero. It just lessens. And in the third stage of this theory, the information then gets through the perceptual processes. However, it may not be as much of a priority or of a necessity. But if we do realize that the unattended input that we originally weren't paying attention to is actually just as important or even more important than the information or that the sensory input that we were originally paying attention to, then we'll actually switch our attention to what we were previously not listening to. I hope this made sense. Thank you for watching.